Hello and welcome to the Extra Innings Baseball Show. I'm your host, Logan Stumph, and with me today is Jordan Wiegand.
Howdy.
How you doing, Jordan? You doing all right?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah, just hanging in there, I guess.
Just hanging in there.
I like your. So we got backdrops going on, right? You got. You're in Camden Yards. I am just virtually.
I am actually here. I'm about to call the game tonight.
I was going to say,
a good time.
How's that going to go? Because I don't know if I've ever heard you call games. I've heard you call games in FIFA, and that is soccer.
I call games all the time. So, like when I'm playing the show, I'm calling my own game. When we went to the Orioles-Red Sox game this year, my wife was making fun of me because I was calling the game as it was going on. You know, it'd be like, and that's a line drive. Oh, what a catch by Xander Bogaerts, right? And it'd be like, it's a 2-2 count here as, Jordan set some stuff here as he's getting ready to wind it. Oh, here comes the pitch, and it's a deep fly ball. Yeah, I just did that the whole time, and I probably annoyed her, but whatever. It's baseball.
I can remember your text messages from Nationals Park when you're talking to me and you're going, oh, yeah, I talk to the players. I yell because I'm one of those fans, especially in baseball, that tends to stay really quiet. Baseball is a little bit better because I can get up and I understand it more so than any other sport just because I played it. But it's definitely one that I don't get as into. It's much more of a laid back game for me. But I know with you,
I get into it. Yeah. So like what you were talking about is, I know when I went to the Union game, we do a soccer podcast here, Stateside Soccer Show as well, and I'm usually yelling at the players, not in a commentator type mode. It's a lot more of a Chris, like, pass it to this guy. John, all by first name basis or nicknames that I give them. And, right. I'm like, oh, what a pass, John. You're doing great, John. It's a lot of that. With baseball, a lot more like commentating. But I will say if, like, they're making a mistake or whatever, it's a lot of, I should have done better there, John. That's how I go with it. But, yeah, I will talk to them. They can't hear me, but I will – because I'm not saying it loud. I'm usually like almost just whispering it to myself.
Right. I'm just concerned about the players and the fans currently in Camden Yards that are behind you, kind of listening in on what you're having to say. But totally understand that.
You know what, though? You know how you can tell I'm not really there? There'd be actually less fans in this picture, which is sad.
It's probably a little bit better than the quarantine games where you didn't have any fans. But
true.
I mean, it's probably getting close. And I know Wrigley Field is about to be about as empty as it is behind me. So. But I guess that kind of leads us into just kind of what the show is going to be about. Obviously, we're going to be talking baseball. We're going to be talking games. We're going to probably try to do like a 2 sets a week kind of game or to kind of set up for this show. I know that Jordan said that he had listened to some other baseball podcasts. I'm actually not as big into the baseball podcast, but I finally started talking or watching We Are Talking Baseball or whatever it was on YouTube today. But I think how we're going to set it up, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll probably try to do 2 episodes, one for one set and one for the next set, because baseball splits up the schedule nicely for us. But I think that's how we'll do it. And we'll be kicking that off, debuting it. We haven't really planned on when. I think we decided it might be playoffs. It might be spring training of next year. So we'd start up maybe January, February.
Let's say our first full season will be
2022.
We might do some practice runs of the playoffs just to see how we are going to structure the show. If we ever release those, you'll see them on the feeds. But
looking forward to it. I'm excited because it's 162 games. We might be in over our heads.
We're going to do one for each game.
Right. So after each game, we're going to go after each day. We're going to go live. So that'll be about 1 a.m. our time because we're going to play at 10.
We have to do a post game for every team. Sorry, that's how we're going to do it. No,
unfortunately, I don't think that's gonna work. But I guess we can kind of get into it. First question that I wanted to ask you. It's not even on our little prompt yet, so I'm not even going to click on the banner. But first, how did you get started into watching baseball? What's like the first memory you have as a kid watching baseball, America's pastime?
First memory is, I think I have like 2 memories that really stick out. First memory is I'm pretty sure we were at my old house, which would have been before my family moved when I was we moved when I was 7 or 8. So we would have. It was before then. I'm pretty sure it was when I was very young, 3, 4. It's one of my first memories. I came into the living room, and my dad was watching the game, and I said, "What are you watching?" And he said, "Baseball or Orioles or something like that." And I think I said it looks stupid, but it hooked me pretty early on there, and I started. It was before I started playing t-ball. Like I knew because that was my first experience with him watching it on the TV or whatever. And then I, started playing. I definitely remember I had a Mark McGwire toy at some point.
Mm-hmm.
He looked as roided out as regular Mark McGwire. And it's like you press a button and he like hits a ball off a tee.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a Sosa one as well, but I think I only had Mark McGwire. Those were some really fun toys though. But the other memory that really sticks out to me is I usually, as a kid would have cookies and milk for a snack. And I remember sitting before we moved to our new house, I think we were staying with my grandparents. And I remember watching an Orioles game there that would have been probably 97, 98 when the Orioles were actually good. And we had, it was Harold Baines hitting a home run. I remember that on Home Team Sports. That's the channel they were on.
Really?
But yeah, that's one of the things I remember. So I'm happy he's in the Hall of Fame. As much as that pissed everybody else off, I was like, it's one of my earliest baseball memories. So I'm happy for it.
Oh, those are always good memories. I think mine came with like playing t-ball. I think that's when I started to realize like what baseball was. It wasn't until I want to say we had a friend that was a diehard Cubs fan. His name was Alex Korn, and he actually texted me in their World Series run in 2016 just because he remembered that he was the one that got me started into the Cubs.
That's cool.
So I would go over and we would spend the night at his house because his house, he had a big, like they had gotten him like one of the, those big screen TVs that were like massive with the big speaker on the bottom.
Oh yeah, we had one of those. Yeah.
So he actually had one in his room. He had this big, like he was an only child, but he had this huge room that was the upstairs basically. And we would play Ken Griffey Jr. baseball on Nintendo 64. And I can remember he was always Sammy Sosa. I was usually Ken Griffey. And then my brother was Mark McGwire. And I always wanted to be Sammy Sosa because I knew Sosa and McGwire were the ones that were constantly in the limelight just because of Griffey's injuries. And I can just remember him being Sammy Sosa, and I was jealous. Yeah, and the roids. Griffey stayed away from him, from what we know. But it like that, and then we were playing baseball at the time, so it was like getting into coach pitch. That's when you really started to get into some serious baseball, like right before kid pitch. But I can just remember that. I can remember going over and watching games with him, and I could just remember the Cubs really being awful. Like they were just not good. Even when Sosa was around, they had years where they just weren't very good. But that's kind of where my first memories come from, was playing Ken Griffey Jr. baseball and kind of playing that summer out with him and watching the Cubs play over there. But like that was the time when you had like Dish was the only way that you could get Cub games, or WGN randomly.
WGN, yeah, WGN had a lot of games. That's how I started watching a lot of Braves because they were on TBS all the time.
Yep, or that, or Turner South. Yeah, we had Turner South, so the Braves were always on Turner South, which I think is now like Bleacher Report. It turned into Bleacher, and they own all that stuff with TBS and stuff. But yeah, I guess that kind of alludes to what your favorite team is. Like growing up, what was your favorite team? Why was it your favorite team? Did you have a reason?
Yeah, I have a question for you for this too, because I don't think we've ever really talked about it that much. But mine is the Baltimore Orioles. For people that don't know, I live in Maryland, so that is the closest team. It's what I grew up being a fan of. And when I was growing up, they were good. They were actually, I was born in 91, so I actually remember. I definitely remember watching playoff games in the late 90s. I remember what a big deal the Jeffrey Meyer catch was that robbed that would have been an out and should have been called for fan interference, but. They didn't call it that way. I definitely remember that growing up being a big thing, and Orioles fan. So my question for you is, because you have all these favorite teams that are not in your neck of the woods, because what is it like kind of growing up in an area, because you're from South Carolina, where there's not a lot of professional
there's no
teams.
professional. Yeah.
I mean, like the Panthers, are they north or are they south?
Yeah, they're north. So they would be North Carolina. They're in Charlotte, so they're about 3.5 hours north of us. And then the Braves are about like 4.5, 5 hours from us. So it was like, so growing up in South Carolina, a lot of people were either Atlanta Brave fans, which during that run, it had been when they won like 13 or 14 straight titles or conference division titles. I was going for the right sport, right teams. I was like, conference, what are they called? Division. So, the Braves had kind of manhandled the South. And that's where a lot of my friends, I remember growing up, a lot of my friends that we played baseball with, they were Braves fans. And that was when they had like Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones, Gary Sheffield, Maddox was there, Smoltz was there, Glavine was there. Like it was the big team that just never won anything really serious. So, it was a matter of that. And then in Charleston, we have the Charleston River Dogs, and they are a single, they're Class A. So they were just a step above when they get drafted. And they were, 18, 19-year-olds that just got drafted. So a lot of the high school players, actually, some of them ended up playing for them. So you knew some of the players. And then there was a bunch of the international kids that
Who were they an affiliate of?
And they were the affiliate of, when we were growing up, they were the affiliate of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, which was for, I think,
brand new franchise around.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And they were, I think it took 5 or 6 years before, like once I started to go to the games more often, they became the Yankees farm system. And that really kind of just rubbed me the wrong way, just because of the evil empire is something you and I remember, and especially you, when the evil empire ruled the world, which I kind of can't wait to talk about, just kind of that. Maybe we can have a whole episode on that leading up, just because I thought it was a really interesting time. But yeah, they switched their allegiances over to the Yankees, and they had guys like Rocco Baldelli, Delman Young was there, which was Dimitri Young's brother. Just random guys like that. Brett Gardner actually used to come to our high school practices sometimes and just kind of hit around and stuff. But yeah, it was tough growing up in South Carolina, because naturally my teams are all Midwest teams, because that's where my family's originally from, except the Dolphins. But it was tough for me growing up in that. And I know you, but seriously, how did you pick? Like, was it just because they were closest? Like, they're definitely the closest, right? Baltimore's closest than the
I mean, they were like, they were, 30 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
Growing up. They got a little farther when my family moved, just like about an extra 15 minutes farther, really. And, I always wonder how this goes for like, for people that have states. I can't imagine Maryland having another team. I was just thinking about like, Texas has a few, like 2. California has 3.
Pennsylvania has a couple. New York has a couple. Like,
yeah. So like for that, I feel like they would just go closest one for me. But I don't even have to do that. Like for me, it's all of my like football, baseball. Those are, there's only one team in Maryland. So for me, it's like, that's my team that represents me. There's like no choice for me to be like, do I represent Baltimore more than Annapolis or, whatever, because we're such a small state, it doesn't matter. So that's what it is. I grew up an Oriole fan because it's the local team. And I'm very much a person that believes in local team support.
Right.
We also have, we do have a minor league team that's even closer to me right now, the Aberdeen Ironbirds. You were at my wedding. That was in Aberdeen. And they're, from where I live now, when I moved out of my parents' house, it's literally probably 15 minutes away. Haven't been able to get there yet because last year was COVID. This year I'm trying to get out there because they actually changed them to high A. They were like...
they're low A?
They were short season A. They were even lower. Okay. Yeah, so they were only playing for like 2 months, 3 months of the year, and now they have a full season. So I'm really excited to do that. And I've been looking at trying to get like the MILB package maybe sometime, because that can be pretty cheap.
I was going to say minor league baseball is a lot of fun to watch. And there's a lot of like weird things that go on in minor league baseball. Like the entertainment and stuff is just, we used to love going to the Charleston River Dog game because they had like random like hula hoop competitions, and sumo wrestlers was like the big thing before the 6th inning. So that was just kind of crazy. But like growing up, and I kind of get in my favorite team, but and I already kind of mentioned it was Sosa and getting me into that. And then they had that nice run between like 2007, 2008, where they were really good. They had Soriano and Derek Lee in them. And that was kind of like the real, like I would watch 100 and maybe 40 some of those games because I was still in high school. Like I had more time in school, obviously, to watch baseball, especially in high school, just because Cubs were on during the afternoon. So I'd record them. And then after baseball practice myself at high school, I'd come home and watch the Cubs games with my dad. Weird enough, my dad was kind of like he was a baseball fan. He wasn't really like attached to a team until I think I got really into the Cubs because my brother watched the Cardinals, but not necessarily a ton. So like, he wasn't very open about like, let's watch the Cardinals a bunch. So I think I kind of swayed my dad in that way because he had always been like a Cal Ripken fan. So he'd always been an Orioles, an Orioles fan. So he always remembers Ripken. So yeah, that was somebody, but he grew up in Indianapolis and he said that when he used to come home from school, he'd always used to watch the Cubs because the Cubs were the ones that were on because of WGN. So he used to watch Harry Carey and them. And, that's something that brought me and my dad and I close, like really, really close. We would watch those games. I remember there were times where I'd like fall asleep because, I'm a high schooler or, middle school. I'm like knocked out on my couch at like 9:30 or 10 o'clock. I remember one time he woke me up because like the Cubs had come back from like, it was like a 10-3 game and they'd come back and won it. Well, 11-10, he woke me up at like, I don't know, like midnight to catch the end of the game. But that's just, the Cubs have always been near and dear to my heart. And I think something about the curse allured me to the Cubs because I was like, that'd be cool to be the fan that like we are the most tortured fan base in all of sports if you look at title droughts. And so that was kind of cool just going through that and having that experience with the Cubbies. So I guess the next one, the big one. So I don't know how you wanted to do this one because it's like favorite player, like now
I guess,
or ever, or we
yeah.
can do now and one that we like from history. I guess that'd be
sure,
cool.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Then let's start us off, Jordan. Which one did you grow up watching and idolize? Then which one would you currently like?
Everybody would assume Cal Ripken.
Yeah, everybody.
No.
Brian Roberts?
No. Yeah, just let me hit myself in the head with a bat real quick. For people that don't know, Brian Roberts did that, and that's how he got a concussion and had to miss time.
Yeah, I was gonna say never.
Man, mine. If I have to look at like all time Orioles, I guess I could go all time ever that I've seen, but all time that I've seen, it's really tough. The Orioles don't have a whole bunch.
No, it stayed there a while. No,
as a kid, I really liked Chris Richards. Chris Richard, he wasn't great. I'll just say that. But as a kid, when I was growing up, and he was on that team, it was like early 2000s when we were really in that, starting to get in that crater of non-competing forever, and that was rough. If I had to pick one right now, I think it would. If I was saying like growing up, my favorite player was probably like I really liked Brady Anderson. I really liked Roberto Alomar. As sad as that is now with his some of the stuff if you read about him.
Yeah.
But I really liked second base, so that's why like Roberto Alomar was up there for me. Yeah, I mean Cal was a legend, but that was everybody's favorite player. So for me, I was like, he's not my favorite player. Like that's a
can't be mine.
He can't be mine. But yeah, so I would probably have to say, Brady Anderson or Roberto Alomar. Mike Bordick, shortstop, was pretty good too. If I'm going more currently on the Orioles, I have soft spots. Adam Jones was a big one. He's not on the team anymore, but he's more current than the ones I was just naming.
He feels like the Orioles of the 2000s.
But probably right now in the Orioles, probably Trey Mancini.
Fair.
Good story.
Yeah.
Great player. It's just my favorite current Oriole is Trey Mancini. And, Cedric Mullins, second option there. He's been fun to watch.
was gonna say Chris Davis, just player, right, in your mind, because he's been.
He was never my favorite, honestly.
Player.
I was always before, if we're talking about the run in the playoffs we made, everybody, I liked Manny Machado, but I liked Jonathan Scope. It's because he was second base, and they were best friends, and that was Scope was my guy. I have a shirt of him in the other room, but it's named 5. There you go.
It's tough that's tough for you. Like, you're right, though. I mean, but I think with your farm system, the way that it's coming up, I think you've got guys that you'll grow attached to. Mine growing up was obviously Sosa, and again, sad story, not nearly as sad, but like just the stuff you read about it, just the steroids and, lying about it, the cork bat issue, he did a lot of things that just kind of make you scratch your head. And then just kind of bridging that gap was Derek Lee for me. And it was like, it went from like cheating and kind of fake, but still my favorite player of all time, got me interested in the Cubs, to like the most stand-up guy that you could pick in Derek Lee when he came over from the Marlins after he destroyed us in the world or in the NLCS with the Marlins. But then, it's tough now because as of Friday, all my favorite players are gone. So
it's funny though, Derek Lee, he's a Baltimore Oriole legend.
Yeah, he is.
2011.
So, yeah, big hero.
Yeah.
What did he play? I think he hit like 130 or something.
He wasn't great.
No, he was really bad. I really do wish when players started to get to a point they would just retire. For instance, John Lester going to the Cardinals.
Pujols.
And Pujols. Just guys like that. Like, I just wish, it was your time and now it's time to move on. But my favorite player now, if I had to pick a Cub that's my favorite, hell, he's the only one left, is Wilson Contreras, just because he's the heartbeat that's left of that 2016 team.
Not Wisdom?
No, it's funny because I know Wisdom will be gone as soon as the Cubs can flip him.
Probably, yeah.
I think as soon as the Cubs can, I think in January, flip him around, or February. I think they'll get the chance to do so. So, which is sad because it's 29 and he's burst onto the scene like a bat out of hell, but literally a bat out of hell. But that favorite player, like, it's so tough because they traded my favorite, and I know that's the next question that we'll get into, and that'll give away who that is. But for me, it's an easy one that is not on my team anymore. But for you, who's your favorite player that's not currently with the Orioles?
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
I love the guy.
Yeah.
He comes over here and everybody's saying you have to pick one, pitch or hit. You're not going to be able to do both. And he said, forget that. I'm going to go to the Angels. We're going to suck, but I'm going to be able to do both. And I admire him for that. And, they're coming into town soon. I don't know when we're putting this video up, but they're coming into town soon from when we're recording. And I'm trying to go see him, hopefully play. I'm even trying to keep looking up, like, when's he scheduled to start so I can try to plan out. But, I think he's just been so good for the game. People are talking about him, NBA players tweeting about him, NFL players tweeting about him. He's bringing attention to the sport. And
I feel like it's a sport that...
And he's a nice guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah, this is a baseball podcast, but in saying that, the sport has struggled. I mean, it's started to really kind of tank a little bit. And I think it's because of the unwritten rules. It's because of some of these, older generations that kind of just existed in the game that kind of burnt the game out. But now it's more exciting where you've got, I think, a lot of the power hitters starting to come back around, and you've got guys that are, pitching, they're throwing balls at 100 miles per hour at people. So
you got Tatis, you got Shohei, Vlad, Vlad Guerrero Jr. Yeah, you got so many fun players coming up.
You forget Mike Trout also exists out there somewhere.
Well, he hasn't played for a few weeks, but a few months.
You forget he's out there. You forget a guy like Giancarlo Stanton sometimes. I mean, obviously not Yankee fans, but some of these guys you just forget because they're overshadowed by these really youthful stars. And what's good about that is, and I think it's really good because Tatis is very flashy. Guerrero has just kind of got this like mentality of like, I'm just going to go and put on a show. And then Shohei is a show. So it's like
Yeah,
all
Showtime,
these,
baby.
it's all these young guys, and it's great because I think it's really good for the game, just kind of to bring in guys that are just so energetic and play the game. I've never been one that's like been too strict on the unwritten rules. Like at first I was like, oh, don't do that, you can't do it. But I'm like, so now it's kind of muddied the water, and I just don't like the way that it's done it. So my favorite player not on my team,
Easy one now.
yeah, Anthony Rizzo, and it was probably the worst destination that I ever could have picked for him. Like, if I'm being honest, I'd much rather had seen him with the Reds or the Cardinals, even the Brewers. Like, and I know those are some of my bitter rivals, but nothing sits well with me watching him play in pinstripes. I'll always respect what the Yankees do and what they had done.
Not me.
But not me. Jordan will be the less fair on that one. But I guess it comes with territory. My territory, the Yankees have never bothered me, so not at least my division. So that and league, so that's never been like a huge thing for me. But yeah, it's really tough to watch Anthony play. I honestly wish the Orioles were good enough to have Anthony, because he deserves to be with a team that'll care for him. And I'm just sure the Yankees are just using him as a rental for now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, hey, he could always go back to Chicago, but it seems like that bridge is burning with the way that Boyer is
that's wonderful,
out there blowing it up. And, he came out there, Rizzo came shooting back at him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, I guess we'll see.
I can't wait to have that conversation.
Who would the answer have been if we've done this show before the deadline, though, and you still had these players on the Cubs? Do you have another player on another team that you're like, oh, I admire him?
Yeah, Paul Goldschmidt for the Cardinals. Yeah, just kind of take care. He's a take care of business kind of guy. He was really good with the Diamondbacks, and then when he went to the Cardinals, that was like my worst nightmare. Luckily, I think it's gotten to the point now. Luckily, it sucked for Cub fans, but we're now at a different trajectory. Like, I think Paul Goldschmidt's on a team that adding a couple more pieces and young pieces that they usually do. Of course, the Cardinals are always good, so I don't know what I'm saying, but the Cardinals seem to be going on that, and we're seem to be going there. And by the time our paths mix up again in 5 years or so, hopefully, fingers crossed, Paul Goldschmidt will probably kind of be a thing of the past, but he's definitely one that's always been on my list of like, man, he's really good. I just like the way that he plays.
Yeah, you're a big NL guy.
I am. Yeah, I'm a heavy NL guy. I do watch AL. The tough thing about AL though is like I feel like watching them for so long, they were so dominant over the NL that it was like, I hate the AL. Like it just was annoying. The Red Sox were good. The Yankees were good.
No, I hate the AL East. The rest of the AL.
You do. Yeah, you do. The Rays were good. The Athletics somehow would always figure out a way with Moneyball. I mean, you had teams. The Seattle was really good for like 3 or 4 years. You had teams that were just like dominant in the AL, and it always made me mad because it seemed like forever, especially because the Yankees had won so many, that the AL always won the World Series. It was like the Marlins that broke up that run of like. Yeah. Of the AL teams just absolutely owning the NL teams, because even Anaheim was really good when they had Tim Salmon in them. But I think Goldschmidt is probably my go-to there. But so favorite ballpark, this one might be. Is this one going to be boring?
We'll specify that it has to be one you've been to.
Okay,
but that might still make it a boring answer.
Yeah,
because I've been to 3. So.
Yeah.
I've been to Camden Yards, I've been to Tropicana Field, and I've been to Nats Park.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just say, I'm in there right now. I'm in Camden Yards. This is they're about to start warming up. This is my favorite ballpark that I've been to.
Yeah, it's one on the list. Like, I think everybody has their list, right? The list would be, it would have been Old Yankee Stadium, Fenway, Camden Yards, Wrigley Field. And I'm trying to think of if there's anybody, Dodger Stadium. Is there anybody that I'm like, that you would go, oh, I need to go there? I don't feel like there is. Like, I feel like those are the big
PNC Park.
Yeah, PNC's.
And I really like San Francisco's with the water.
Yeah, McCovey Cove.
Water there.
Yeah. So, but I think like the traditional 5, it's always Camden, Wrigley, Old Yankee Stadium, Fenway, and then Dodger Stadium. Because there's just so much history there. And those 5 teams that really just kind of stand out to you. I've never been to Fenway, never been to Camden. I've been to Old Yankee Stadium, been to Wrigley, and really want to go to Dodger Stadium, but the traffic I hear is absolutely insane. It takes like 3 hours to get out of the parking lot. So that's brutal. But what about
Kind of sounds like FedEx Field. Sounds like FedEx Field down
yeah.
here.
What about Camden makes it so beautiful? Like if you had to pitch, like why go to Camden Yards?
It's the view, man. You got the warehouse, which gives it this unique flavor. You have now they have the whole new like statues of our Hall of Fame Orioles down in the by the flag court. They've made some upgrades that have made it really good, but it's the the scoreboard looks nice and old fashioned. You have the warehouse. It's just this perfect feel of like an old school baseball ballpark, but in a more modern time. This opened up in like 92, a year after I was born. And like compared to especially how the ones I've been to, Tropicana is a mess. It's not the best. Yeah. And Nats Park is good. It's just it feels a little sanitized, a little corporate. But it's still a nice ballpark. But it's not as like this feels blue collar, just old school baseball.
I get that. Like that warehouse is the iconic thing for me. Like when I look at Camden, I'm like that warehouse. It's so fascinating to me. Like, it's just like, that is a big building across the street. It's kind of like the buildings across the street of Wrigley. It's just like those buildings just pop out to you. And you're right. It's like your park, if people didn't know when Camden opened, like I would have guessed it opened in like the 60s or 70s. That's when I would have guessed. But Camden's young. Like Camden's still pretty young for a ballpark.
They call it, what do they call it? Like it like started the new wave of like the old school
like
baseball parks.
Yeah.
But sometimes they give it a name. Trying to figure out what they call it. You can keep talking if you want.
But I think with stadiums, I think it comes with the territory of like the history that has gone on there, and just kind of, some of them are old. Like Old Yankee Stadium was old, but you had some of the greatest players of all time play in that stadium. As much as you don't want to say it, of course, you weren't really alive then, so it wasn't like they were affecting you. Like a Lou Gehrig.
I can appreciate Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and all that. Especially Yogi. Babe Ruth is from Baltimore. We have the Babe Ruth Museum right down the street from Camden Yards, and that's a fun day to spend there too. Babe Ruth. We claim him.
Yeah. So you got guys like that in Dodgers. You got the Sandy Koufax and all of them. So it's you've got a lot of history there with Vin Scully. You got guys that just and now they're really really good to a point where like my generation is going to think back on who's the dominant team of now, and I think the Dodgers are starting to get to that point where they just become so dominant. And then you've got things like Fenway. With the Green Monster, like that, it's iconic. Everything about Fenway and Wrigley, they're two of the same ilk. They're about that same kind of pedigree, I think, where people I don't think will ever knock it down because they're like, we can't touch it. This thing will be 800 years old because people don't want to knock it down. Whereas I think some of the other stadiums, like an Old Yankee Stadium, they thought they could mix it in with a new modern, and they built this new one, which we'll talk about. But stadiums are so unique in different ways. I've been to, I think we calculated 5 that are still standing, 2 that are not standing anymore. Old Yankee Stadium, and then what did I say the other one was? Old Yankee Stadium, and I don't remember. I'm blanking, but 2 that are Synergy Field, which was the Reds' old stadium, which was really ugly. And glad they blew that thing up. But and then I've been to the Trop for not baseball, my sister's color guard competition, which I'll agree with you on that because I got to walk around the concourse about 100 times.
Yeah.
That is not a good stadium. That is like an ugly eyesore of a stadium. No offense to the Tampa fans. I hope you get a better stadium. You got so many great options over there near that coast. I've been to Marlins Park, which is beautiful. St. Louis is beautiful. It's just really hot. I've been to Wrigley Field, and then I always blank on the last ones that I've been to. I've been to Miller Park in Milwaukee. I don't know if it's still called Miller. I think they call it something different now. But Yeah, those are the 5 I've been to. My favorite, Wrigley, obviously, just because of the ivy. Like there's nothing,
Mhm.
and I don't know if it's the same in Canada, but in Wrigley or like Fenway or any of those, but in Wrigley, instead of walking down to your seats, you go upstairs, and then like as soon as you start going upstairs, you see the ivy, and because it's so weird and unique, it's a whole wall of ivy. It just like it's breathtaking when you first see that, and those little buildings in behind it that are like the apartments and the rooftops. Those are, I mean, it's just like and the lake you can see from the stands. It's just like it's a different experience being at Wrigley, and it's so small compared to like these massive, like big stadiums that they build now, like the Nationals Park. So,
Or
obviously,
the new Arlington one.
the thing is a globe. I think that's called the Globe Life Park or something like that. Did you ever
Something
find
like
out
that.
what it was called?
No, like they don't have it written down here. But usually, like I said, being a like a retro classic is what they call it.
Okay, yeah, it's like a mix of the modern and a mix of the old.
Yeah, they call it Old Jewel Box Parks is what Camden Yards harkens back to, and it began the trend of building retro classic ballparks.
Now, excuse my baseball history, but where did the Orioles used to play? What was it called?
Memorial Stadium, same stadium as the Colts.
Okay. Wow, so they moved both teams out of there, and at least one stayed. But
yeah, but that look up Memorial Stadium. It's not great.
Is it kind of like the Vet, like the Phillies old one?
Just a lot of. I'm not sure on that one. I know that one had turf. I think this one had grass, but it's just big circular, old school. Not a lot of great seats in Memorial Stadium either. Like there's a lot of people that would complain about how.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It kind of, you know what it looks like? And no offense again to another fan base, kind of looks like Shea Stadium, like the way that it's kind of like it's really open in center field. Like there's no fans. It's just like the batter eye was like, yeah, it's there. That's ugly.
Yeah, it's part
okay.
Part baseball, part football.
Yeah,
not a great
like
stadium.
Oakland's a little bit. So. All right, so I guess the last question we have here, and then I guess we can just talk if we want. But favorite baseball moment, Jordan, which one is yours?
One of my favorite moments is definitely game 162 of 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Just like watching baseball. I know I have a lot of older memories as well, but that one is like. That was like the final game of the season. The Orioles were playing spoiler to the Red Sox. The Red Sox had that awful September where they went from first place. I'm smiling just thinking about it. First place to the AL East, and they end up not making the playoffs at all.
Yeah,
not even the wild card, because the Orioles, played them a few times at the end of the year and was able to get enough wins from them and knock them out. And there is just this. They had the rain delay too. There was a rain delay. And the Orioles are paused, so the Rays are facing the Yankees. The Rays are trying to make the playoffs in the wild card spot, and it was like as soon as we came back and we won, the Orioles did. It was like right after that, you flip over to like ESPN. I guess is doing whip around or something, but ESPN shows Evan Longoria hit the home run in the short area of left field in Tropicana. Like that area is very short, and it was like a line drive home run. It just got over the wall, and it was a walk-off win for the Rays, and it was enough for them to get in, and it was just so much fun. It was just really great, and then it sort of set the tone for the Orioles for the next 5 years there, where they were competitive, won a division title in 2014, 2012. They made the wild card. Knocked out Texas in the wild card match, and then faced the Yankees. And that kind of ties in there in 2012. If I'm saying favorite baseball moment I've been to, was Yankees versus Orioles in the ALDS in Baltimore. I got to go to my first playoff game, and that was a whole bunch of fun. And we won that game. And then in 2014, I went to see us beat the Tigers in Game 2 of the ALDS when we swept the Tigers. So it
Well,
was just like those are my favorite moments. Two of them I was there for. One of them I was just watching from home, and it was a lot of
yeah.
fun.
I was gonna say that I can remember when we came back from program then, so that must have been, I guess, the 2015 season when they went on a playoff, like they were in the playoffs, and I thought they were actually good enough to win.
2014.
Was it
Yeah,
2014?
2014 is when they won the division.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2014, I just remember Camden Yards being absolutely bonkers, and there was orange everywhere, like everywhere. And one of the games I think was when, I mean, it was like they had an inning where they scored 4 or 5, where it just was like a merry-go-round. Like guys were hitting the ball to the wall.
Was the game I was there, I think. Hold on. It was
Was that Detroit?
Game 2 against Detroit.
Yeah. Because that was a really good Detroit team that they were beating up on too.
Yeah, they had 3 like Cy Young winners,
yeah.
And we swept them.
Yep.
It was game 2 in the 8th inning. We scored 4.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, well, and game 1. Okay, game 1 is the game. Game 1 is the one I went to. Okay, that's what it was. I went to game 1, and we won 12-3, and we scored 8 in the 8th inning. I remember that was a lot of fun. Then game 2, I had to go to work during the middle of the game, but it was like right after, if you remember at all, when like Delman Young scored or hit a run and scored, and then like Nelson Cruz like does a backwards flip at the end of home plate or whatever, and it was like that. I saw that, and then I was like, okay, I have to get in the car and go drive to work. So that was a great moment too. But yeah, they really beat up on the Tigers that series.
That was great. That was a great series. I just remember watching, and Gary Thorne was doing. That's his name, right? That's his first name, Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary.
I don't know if he was doing them then because of they weren't it wasn't the local.
It was
games
TBS.
It was TBS or whoever.
It's like TBS started doing that thing where they picked off one of the broadcast members from each of the teams. They had tried that because I know Bob Brenly used to do the Cubs games, and they picked him off to do the Cubs games once the playoffs started rolling around. I think it was in 2015. They picked off one of the Cubs announcers. So, but yeah, a favorite baseball memory of mine is a little bit different. 2016, obviously, for the Cubs.
It was a lot better, I guess.
It's right up against. It's actually right up against, honestly, the trade deadline of 2021. Back on Friday.
Really?
2 of my favorite. Absolutely not. This is what makes it so hard for me, is because those 3 guys were pivotal into that run. Javi Baez had probably the best lead up to the World Series, and then Rizzo and Bryant played extremely well in the World Series. So that's kind of like pouring salt in the wound, because those 2 had never played that well in playoff runs, which was why we never got to where we got to until 2016. Chris and Anthony, Addison Russell, and them started playing well. Schwarber came back. I think that was probably if I had to pick like a moment in the World Series, that was my favorite. It was Kyle Schwarber coming back and just lighting the world up after tearing his ACL in like the first 2 series of the season, and they never thought he'd come back. And I can just remember following that story from the very beginning when they said there's no chance, to like, oh my God, they're sending him down to like, it was Arizona Cactus League, I think, that was just getting started or something, where they were like training, and it was off season, and he was down there hitting. And then I can remember he made one appearance with like the AAA team because they were still playing in the playoffs. So he jumped into a playoff roster, and they were hitting, and it was just a weird, like, simulated games and stuff. And I don't know, it was really strange to watch. Maybe it wasn't AAA. Maybe, I forget where exactly he went, but just that whole, 2016, like, if I could rewind time and just live a week or 2, that would be the week or 2 I'd live. Just because we came down from 3-1, people thought we were out. And then, of course, in a Cubs fashion, we almost give Game 7 away, and then ended up winning it. But, just to bring back a title after 108 years was something. I remember crying. I remember lots of emotions. I remember going to Magic Kingdom after. Like, it's great because we lived near Disney World at the time. And so, like, and we still do, but like that whole week, I would, after games and stuff, like the next day would be like something we were doing at Disney World for some reason. So like, I always remember places I was at Disney when we won and stuff. So it was just kind of cool moment, but just, I think every Cub fan, that's probably their favorite if they've lived that long. So yeah, I think that that was all the questions that we had. I don't know if we wanted to talk about anything else or.
The only thing I want to talk about is that, I have this new goal to go to each stadium, as we were talking about ballparks. My sister got me, for the visual watchers here, my sister got me this great thing off of, I don't know, like Etsy maybe, where you can, it's a overhead view of the stadiums, and it's scratch off. You scratch off which ones you've been to. I haven't opened it up yet to scratch off the ones I've already been to. But looking forward to, making this thing, hanging up somewhere and completing it someday. I've only been to 3 out of the 30.
Yeah.
So 10%, right, of the way there. So, and we figured out we're going to be doing a web series based off of this. So for the stadiums I've already been to, I'm going to use pictures I took from whenever I was, any sort of videos I took, if I took any, and I'm going to make just a little like vlog that way. But going forward, I will have new video that I'm taking at whatever new stadiums I go to. From when we're recording this, I'm supposed to go to Philadelphia in September. So you'll see some cool videos and pictures and a little vlog post I'm going to make around that. And even just anything baseball, not just stadiums. I'm supposed to go to the Hall of Fame in a week and a half. So looking forward to that as well. And again, by the time this is out, I've probably already been there.
We don't know when this is coming out.
So I don't know when this is coming out. But yeah, I would have already been there. But looking forward to that, and looking forward to getting started with this, and whenever we fully get started with this.
I know. I think it's exciting for us because one, we've done a soccer show together that's done really well, the Stateside Soccer Show, and we feel like
top
we
242.
Top. Yep. But we do feel like that in the world of baseball podcasts, it's very team oriented, and we feel like we can do a nice job of just kind of rounding out the league, especially because Jordan is much more of the AL guy and I'm much more of the NL guy.
Right, we have it covered.
So I think that we've got, a lot more of the AL guys than I do, because I remember when I was talking to you, I was like, who in the world is Trevor Plouffe? And you're like, he played for the Twins for like ever. So I go on there, I'm like, oh my God, he played for like, I didn't know he was there that
10
long.
years, right?
Yeah,
he played a while.
Yeah, he was even with the Phillies, I think, for some time. But it's like we were talking baseball or whatever is the podcast name. But yeah, no, it was funny just because like I could say NL guys that you might not know, and it'd be like, what the heck are you talking about? But I feel like you've got a good sense because you've had MLB package for the last year that you've just kind of binge watching at points. Just because I know you.
When nothing else is on, when nothing else is on, I just flip on one of the West Coast games, especially because I'm like, they start at like 10 o'clock, and I'm like laying in bed. I'm like, well, I guess I'll just flip on the Angels, or try to watch Shohei, or watch the excitement of San Francisco outperforming what they were supposed to do. And the whole NL West has been a lot of fun in 2021.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just kind of see how this show goes. If anybody has any feedback that are listening, whenever you're listening to this, whether it be August, September, hell, maybe you're listening to it in December. Whenever you have time to kind of give us some feedback on what you'd like to hear, what we can do differently that other podcasts maybe not cover. Maybe we can cover, the Arizona Diamondbacks for some more, air time than some of these other podcasts give, or something like that. But I guess just. You can follow us on Twitter, because that's going to be the best way to get a hold of us right now. Instagram and them are just kind of not up and going yet. So I think that if anything's shared, it'll be through Twitter first. And you can follow us at Extra Innings Show, and that is X, like at X Inning or Extra. How do can you put that up there on the screen there, Jordan? It's at Extra Innings Show, and it's the X is the extra part. And then it's not plural innings. It's just inning show. And there it is on the screen if you are.
Or you can say extra innings how, right?
Yeah, extra innings how.
However you want to say it. Yeah.
But it's got the X in it, and it's got just the one S, extra innings.
If you're listening audibly, listening on the audio, go to your show notes. We have it listed there. We also have the link tree posted there. That'll have the link there. If you're watching, the link tree should also be in the description of the video, or it's this at that Logan was just saying. There we go. At Extra Inning Show on Twitter. But yeah, the link tree will also. So if you went to our Twitter, the link tree is also going to have a link. The Twitter will have a link to the link tree as well. So if you want to follow the other ones.
If you can do us a huge favor, just like, follow, share, tag all your friends that watch baseball, tag all your friends that don't watch baseball. Maybe they're interested. And just kind of do us a favor, go over to iTunes and rate us. It helps people find the podcast. And I guess we'll see you at the park.
The Extra Innings Baseball Show is hosted by Logan Stumph, edited and produced by Jordan Wiegand, and we hope that everybody enjoys us talking some baseball in this MLB 2022 season that is upcoming. Thank you.